July 2, 1997. The Thai government makes an announcement that will echo across the planet. They're floating the baht, cutting their currency loose from the US dollar. Within hours, the baht loses half its value. Within weeks, the crisis spreads to Indonesia, South Korea, Malaysia. Stock markets crash from Hong Kong to Moscow. The International Monetary Fund scrambles to bail out entire nations. It becomes the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. They called it the Tom Yum Goong Crisis, named after a soup. If you've eaten Thai food, you know Tom Yum, that electric combination of sour, salty, spicy, and aromatic. The soup that hits every receptor on your tongue at once. Tom Yum Goong, the shrimp version, might be the single most recognizable Thai dish on earth. It's served in restaurants from Bangkok to Brooklyn, referenced in pop culture, beloved by millions. But here's what most people don't know. The ingredient that makes it famous? It's not from Thailand. The people who refined it? They were following local dietary customs and community norms. In recent years, Thailand has pursued UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage recognition for this soup. How does all of that fit into one bowl? That's what we're going to find out. This is the story of a dish that absorbed 6 centuries of history, religious traditions, colonial trade routes, royal kitchens, economic catastrophe, and global recognition. And it starts with a simple question about early cooking practices. We'll trace Tom Yum from riverside communities that favored local freshwater ingredients to the Portuguese ships that accidentally revolutionized Asian cuisine, through royal Thai kitchens where the modern recipe was codified, into a financial crisis so severe it needed a nickname everyone would understand. And finally, to a conference room in Paraguay, where the world said, "This soup matters." Let's start at the beginning, or at least as close to the beginning as we can get. Here's the frustrating thing about researching Tom Yum's origins. There isn't much to find. Food writer Susan Wagoner put it perfectly. I searched for the history of Tom Yum and came up empty-handed. In my experience, this is almost always the mark of a very ancient dish, one that preceded written recipes and has become such a part of the culture, it doesn't need further explanation. Tom Yum is so fundamental to Thai cooking that nobody bothered to write down where it came from. It just was. But we can piece together a story from what we do know: the Central Plains of Thailand. For centuries, this has been the country's agricultural heartland. The Chao Phraya River and its tributaries created one of the most fertile regions in Southeast Asia. And in the villages along these waterways, something important was taking shape. Many communities favored not using large livestock and relied on locally available river seafood. There was a preference for what the water provided naturally: freshwater prawns and shrimp, abundant in rivers and streams. The problem? Shrimp cooked in plain water taste, well, shrimpy. There's a strong fishy quality that needed balancing. So cooks started experimenting with local herbs. And this is where Tom Yum becomes something special. They didn't just grab whatever was nearby. These communities had deep knowledge of traditional medicine. And the 3 herbs they settled on weren't chosen randomly. Lemongrass, traditionally used to support digestion and relieve fever. Galangal, long associated with soothing the stomach and reducing discomfort. Kaffir lime leaves, valued for a refreshing aroma and clean taste. Together, these herbs transformed shrimp broth into something aromatic and bright, often enjoyed during rainy seasons for its lively flavor. Modern studies suggest these ingredients have anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial properties, aligning with long-standing culinary observations. The name itself is beautifully simple. In Thai, Tom means to boil. Yum means to mix. It's the same word used for Thai salads, boiled and mixed. That's it. A name so basic it tells you this dish predates the need for fancy descriptions. But if you tried Tom Yum in, say, the 1400s, you might not recognize it. because the ingredient that defines it today, the one that gives it that famous burn, hadn't arrived yet. For that, we need to talk about some very lost sailors. Late 1400s and early 1500s, European voyages link the Americas, Europe, and Asia, setting off exchanges that reshape global cooking. Chili peppers, native to the Americas, cultivated for millennia, arrived in Europe with Columbus. They were called peppers, reflecting the mistaken belief he had reached Asia. But here's where the real transformation begins. The Portuguese. They were the first Europeans to really crack the Asian spice trade. They established colonies in Brazil, where chilies grew abundantly. They controlled Goa in India. They had trading posts throughout Southeast Asia. And they were very, very good at moving plants around the world. By the early 1500s, just decades after Columbus, Portuguese traders had introduced chili peppers to India, Indonesia, and mainland Southeast Asia. The spread was astonishingly fast. In Thailand, historians note a brief Portuguese presence that influenced local kitchens and ingredient use. Religious change was limited. The lasting impact was culinary exchange. Before chilies, Tom Yum was sour and aromatic. After chilies, it became something else entirely. That signature burn that makes your eyes water and your sinuses clear. The genius was in how Thai cooks integrated this new ingredient. They didn't just add heat randomly. They balanced it against the existing sour, salty, and aromatic elements. They created what food scholars call the Thai flavor principle. Multiple strong tastes in deliberate tension. Tom Yum became the template for understanding Thai cuisine itself, and it kept evolving. The clear broth version, Tom Yum Nam Sai, stayed closer to the original. Later, cooks developed Tom Yum Nam Kon, the creamy version, adding chili paste and evaporated milk or coconut cream. Each generation added something. Each cook made adjustments. The soup was alive. The earliest written recipe we found for something resembling modern Tom Yum appears in 1890 in a Thai cookbook compiled by students at a girls' school in Bangkok. But the version most similar to what we eat today was recorded in 1964 in a book called Food of the Royal, compiled by a relative of Queen Sirikit. Tom Yum had traveled from fishermen's boats to village kitchens to the royal palace. And soon, it would travel somewhere nobody expected, into the vocabulary of economic disaster. The early 1990s. Thailand's economy is expanding rapidly. The economy is growing 8 to 13% annually. The World Bank calls it one of the fastest growing economies on Earth. Thailand is being called the fifth tiger, poised to join Hong Kong, Singapore, South Korea, and Taiwan as Asia's economic elite. The average Thai citizen earns 3 times what someone in China makes. Foreign investment is flooding in. Skyscrapers are going up everywhere. And then, almost overnight, it all collapses. July 2nd, 1997. The Thai government, unable to defend the baht against currency speculators, decides to float it. Within hours, the currency loses half its value. Banks fail. Construction projects freeze. Companies that borrowed in US dollars suddenly can't pay their debts. The stock market plummets. But here's what makes this crisis different. It doesn't stay in Thailand. It spreads. Indonesia's currency collapses. South Korea receives an IMF support package of about $58 billion. Malaysia's stock market crashes. The contagion reaches Russia, Brazil, and even threatens the United States. The IMF described it as an exceptionally severe financial crisis. In Thailand, a widely used nickname emerged to describe the event in everyday terms. It became known as the Tom Yum Goong Crisis. The name choice linked a familiar national dish to a complex economic period. Like Tom Yum's flavors spreading through a bowl, the effects reached widely and quickly. The soup that defined Thai identity became the metaphor for Thai catastrophe. Thailand recovered. It took years of painful restructuring, but the economy eventually stabilized. the country learned hard lessons about foreign debt and currency management. The nickname stuck around long after the crisis ended. People born after 1997 still call it the Tom Yum Goong Crisis. And the soup? The soup was fine. It kept being made in homes and restaurants and street stalls, exactly as it had been for centuries. But the story doesn't end there, because in 2024, something happened that nobody in those 1997 headlines could have predicted. March 2021, Thailand announces it will prepare a nomination for Tom Yum Goong to UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage List. Created in 2008, the list recognizes living traditions and the knowledge that sustains them, practices maintained by communities and passed down through teaching. Think Japanese no theater, Argentine tango, the Mediterranean diet. Thailand had already listed 4 elements: Khon masked dance, traditional Thai massage, Nora dance drama, and the Songkran festival. Next, they aimed to put their soup forward. The case wasn't about flavor. It was about what the soup represents in daily life. For Tom Yum, that knowledge includes selecting herbs, preparing broths, and sharing techniques within households and at community events. UNESCO's criteria focus on safeguarding living heritage, not on taste or rankings. Tom Yum, the nomination materials argue, reflects shared identity as much as a recipe. Nominations are evaluated by expert bodies and then considered by the Intergovernmental Committee at its annual session. Decisions are taken in public meetings and published in official records. For the current status of Tom Yum Goong, consult UNESCO's official ICH website, that is the authoritative record. In Thailand, the nomination prompted conversations about cuisine, culture, and continuity. A humble soup shaped by exchange, royal codification, and crisis is framed as living knowledge to be safeguarded. The ICH system doesn't grant exclusivity or legal rights over a dish. It supports communities in transmitting practices and context. However it's classified, Tom Yum endures as shared heritage. So what does Tom Yum actually teach us? That food isn't static. It absorbs everything around it: religious beliefs, trade routes, economic systems, national identity. The soup you eat today carries 6 centuries of history in every spoonful. The defining spicy ingredient came to Thailand via global exchange. Rather than reducing its identity, it illustrates how cuisines adapt through contact. That survival requires flexibility. Tom Yum didn't stay the same for 600 years. It changed with every generation, every new ingredient, every crisis. The soup that exists today would be unrecognizable to the monks who first made it. And that's exactly why it's still here. The next time you sit down with a bowl of Tom Yum, whether it's the clear Nam Sai or the creamy Nam Khon, whether it's from a street cart in Bangkok or a restaurant in your hometown, remember what you're holding. A dish shaped by local practice, global exchange, and generations of cooks. Proposed for international safeguarding as living heritage. Not bad for a soup whose name simply means boiled and mixed. Subscribe to Meal Mysteries for more.